And it's this that makes me believe them. In fact, that's what I'd like to talk about is believability. What is that one thing that happens that suddenly inside makes us feel that we're prepared to believe that person? Well, I certainly have an answer to this. I'm not sure if it's the only answer, but it's certainly one that works for me. I remember years ago, about over 30 years ago, I sold my business and I was going to do the first sales training that I'd ever done for a corporate client. And I was thinking about my opening. I was thinking, I know what's going to happen. A lot of these salespeople are going to be sent to this course. And some of them are going to think, why am I going on this course? So I know that those first few moments, I've got to establish my authority. I've got to establish my knowledge base. I've got to certainly make them think that they can believe me. How am I going to do that? And I racked my brains about this until I came up with this idea. And I did my introduction. Hello, my name is Peter Thomson, blah, 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 all the rest of it. And then I said this one thing. And I said, before we get going, there's one thing I have to tell you. And it's this. I don't have all the answers. I've been in business X period of time, had these successes, I've had these fantastic failures as well. But despite all the things that I'm learning, and I'm a lifelong learner, I still don't have all the answers. However, what I do have is I have some great questions, and I know that together we'll be able to answer those questions. So if we think of how many years sales experience you've got in this room, and I went around the room and I counted by asking people how many years have you been in selling, and went around the room and added it all up, and it was say 300 or 400 years. And I said, well, I've been in business for 30 plus years. Well, it probably wasn't quite that those times, maybe 20 plus years. How can I possibly stand here and say I've got all the answers? But together we can find the answers. And I found that was absolutely fantastic. In fact, I remember one course up in Lancashire where a guy came up to me and he said, I was hating coming on this course. I didn't want to come, but I was forced to come. And the moment you said that, I relaxed. Later, when I read Influence, Science and Practice, or the various other books by Robert Cialdini, and I actually met him and interviewed him as well, I realized that apart from his main 6 and now 7 ideas about persuasion, which are fantastic, there was one in there as well, which was admitting a failing. And I realized, because this was after I designed my opening, that that's exactly what I was doing. Now, I wasn't admitting a failure, although that can probably work. I was admitting a failing. And I found this. It's when we tell people what we can't do, before we tell them what we can do, then we become far more believable. Now, it can't be a technique. It can't be an underhand way of doing this. It's got to be integrity laden, hasn't it? But if there's something that we can't do, or something that's a failing that we're able to talk about first, I think that is a major way in people believing us. I was going to say persuading them to believe us. I didn't want to say it in that way because I don't mean it in that way. It wasn't meant in a calculated way. It was meant in a considered way. But it wasn't meant with any underhand intent. There was no manipulative intent in there. So I wonder if you can take that idea away and think about when you're communicating with your videos, with your content, with your clients, is there a way that you can start by telling them what you can't do before you tell them what you can do? I'm sure you can. Here's another thought. A couple of friends of mine were in the gym business. And they were going after an in-house contract with a big company, big American company, but based in the UK. And they knew about this because I'd explained it to them. And so they decided to go in, and they actually used the idea of a liner, a massive big ship liner, compared to a tugboat. And the fact that they were a tugboat in business and not a liner. But because they were a tugboat, they were able to turn and change direction, and they could pull the liner along, and you can understand how the metaphor would work. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. I've certainly enjoyed sharing that with you, and I wish you every success in all your adventures in life. Until the next one, there's plenty more of these about. I'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.